Before the sacred was capitalized on and turned secret for the benefit of the few at the expense of the many, there was a question asked of those who wished to become lords of their lives by learning how to use the universal laws that direct life in this material reality. That question was, how do you know when you are suffering? In order to gain access to the sacred insights wise students of life had gleaned from their journey and gave freely to those with eyes to see and ears to hear truth in all of its simplicity, one had to demonstrate compassion for life, lest their demons cause strife in the communities they came from and would return to when they were through. The truth has been hidden beneath lies designed to control and confine anyone willing to submit to an outer authority to write the script of the life we came here to lead as originals. Most have heard the line, to be or not to be, that is the question, from the Shakespearean play Hamlet, where the main character contemplates the purpose of life and suicide, while speaking his thoughts aloud despite being alone on the stage, called a soliloquy. What we have failed to see is that we are each being called to answer that question by lawfully claiming the right to lead our lives as we see fit, self-govern, despite the fight that comes with reclaiming our power from corporations that need our team to feed the machine. In the Shakespearean play As You Like It, he reveals more truth, but mixes in an agenda that begins to erode our belief in our ability to choose the roles we play in the life we lead. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Jack, Act 2, Scene 7. This part is true, and you are called to fill in the rest your own way by righting the wrongs present lie said to be best, lest your soul be made less whole because you sold yourselves to another before seeing how that tied you to a ship mast, flagpole, that is going under. Pirates will plunder, steal goods from a place or person, typically using force. For that is what they do best, and in order to recruit you, they will make you feel less.
Jared Wade, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you this evening, going through the launch of our third music project together. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, doing amazing.
How are you feeling, and what are you thinking about this third project now that we're working on?
I am pretty excited. We tried to do a album 23, and then the year 23 turned into be a rather chaotic ending with that one. I think that happened for not just me, but for quite a few people.
Yeah.
So coming into 24, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of possibilities, and just things just seem to be shaping up and working together this year for things that have been long overdue. So really excited about a new project, especially something where we're looking and focusing on self-improvement and looking at stepping into just a deeper understanding of how we are all connected in life and stepping into the value that life has for each of us. So there's exciting opportunities there.
Absolutely. So this opportunity is for artists of music that is meant to harmonize the hues of us. The artists that are willing to go on a journey to heal ourselves so that we can actually embody a higher energetic frequency that allows us to put out healed music because vibrationally we worked on ourselves and resolved that which wasn't in resolution before. So what we're doing is creating a community of healers who support and help the healers that are in the community of healers, that heal others also. And we have a recharging station that is centralized and accessible through regular calls, through the course that is launching. We have to become the responsible parental team that actually has a mother and father, or the parental figures that offer a sense of balanced masculinity and femininity, which is what those two parents or poles are supposed to represent to the child, who then gets to be in between expressions embodied of the energy that they have inside of them both. Mother and father, they have that inside of them because that is the king and queen inside of each of us. Except for there are multiple suits within each of these kings and queens within the tarot and regular cards. And even in the chessboard, each side has one. So this is the thing that we have to get back to understanding, is the fact that we are all part of the very same thing, experiencing itself, experience life as us, for it, to understand itself because of our individuated expression and experience of all that is here for us. Which means who we are versus who we believe ourselves to be is the humanly aspect of us compared to the whole self that actually says, I can create absolutely anything that I desire to if I am willing to actually sire it. If I sire something, that means I impregnate the world with an idea that I formed first in mind, third eye, and then formulated into the reality that we actually live in the 3D. That means I took it from a fourth dimensional mental construction based off of a fifth dimensional heartfelt experience to magnetize factors together, cooperative parts, to create the 3D version of that which I saw in my mind because of what my heart desired. This is how we start working with the energetics of creation. Instead of the counterfeit versions, which is the second dimensional counterfeit version of reality that we are then implied to be with our paperwork. This is why liability of usury agents that act as second parties that then move us into the third person position of the debtor, executor, executor, the exchequer, the one that checks the box to say, I am that at the expense of all of this. Labels limit us to a one-dimensional box of identity that invite an entity into our awareness. And if we actually see that reality, then we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back to the heart of the matter, which is the present now moment that we are actually in here, Jared and I, where you can choose to be one of the ones that actually join for these sessions and who choose to participate in Album24. You have the opportunity to tune into group calls with some of the most amazing organizations, people, and projects that I have come across, because what I'm interested in, things that cross my path that are interesting, I want to share them with people that are interested, which is why I want to know what this message has meant to and for you who has been watching us talk about what is coming. Just him and I having a conversation, and then I realized, holy shit, this isn't being recorded. And so then I started it, and we shaped up and got with the program because we created the program, because that's what programming is. Literally, we set the agenda. We call the meeting. We host the meeting. We record the meeting. We edit the meeting. We upload the meeting. We promote the meeting. We are the ones that do it. Jared and I do a whole lot with this project, but this is the thing. Him and I are not enough on our own, though we are. It would be just far easier if there were multiple others in the screen who were all doing the same thing that we are to the level that we were. Holy poo. That'd be epic.
Yep. Yeah, very much so.
Those pregnant pauses are actually said to be full of potential. And there is the tendency that I have personally to edit out that part. Because for me, I used to see it to be a waste of time in the replay, because it's like I just wanted to absorb as much information as possible. But I kind of am a weird sponge that way with what I'm interested in, at least. The things that I'm not, it's just like it goes over my head just as much as what I say goes over many head. Because when I'm aiming at the head, I'm missing the heart anyway. So there's a disconnection right from the start. And that's really what we are moving through, which is why I am so excited to be able to announce Album24 being this program. We have 2 live events here in Ontario in April and May. And then September 7th, Jared Wade is actually hosting an event in Washington if you want to talk about that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the Music Healing Mini Festival that's starting off in Kalama, Washington. Got a wonderful amphitheater there, and we're lining up a lot of sponsors and just different people and from our community to come together with the power of music to just become aware of what resources are available and what is here to help support individuals in our community, as far as groups and as far as just different things that are here to lift humanity. And that's kind of our focus, is we want to bring everybody together with some awesome music and have a good time.
Absolutely wonderful. If I were closer, I would definitely be there, and I have to just see, but I think it would be fun. There's the part of me that is hesitant to cross the border because of I haven't left since 2019 after I got locked up and probably got listed as the T word, because I would be an E word of extreme with an IST to go on the extreme, to then seem to be a threat to others because I wasn't willing to be quiet about the ugly truth that I woke up to, and then shouted, "The Emperor is naked! The Emperor wears no clothes!" And then instead the hounds stuck me in institutions that were designed to break me, and it didn't. It just made me stronger. Because when the things that I expected to be there for me failed me, I had to find the resolve and resources inside of me. And while I didn't get it right, and I struggled a whole lot, it gave me empathy and compassion, just as Jared has had the same experience of being humbled in order to be able to relate to those who have been, will be, are being humbled.
Yes. Yep. Life is stranger than fiction sometimes. And you get eye-opening experiences that just teach you that you can't trust everybody. We're not all here buddy making life happen, trying to lift and build each other. And I think we should be. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing, is because just because everybody's not doesn't mean some people aren't. And so Laura, Jay, and I are here because it is our desire to uplift humanity.
I love it. Yes. Yes. Yes, it's 10 o'clock. That's the 10th hour, which is the number of completions, which is where we will not devour any more of your team, which is your time, energy, effort, attention, and money. Though it would seem, if you have been overflowing in abundance and wish to share some of that with your talent, with your time, and with your attention, it would be amazing to have you part of Album24. It would be amazing to have you come out for more at a time when we can dig deeper and actually reconnect with the artists from the first 2 albums. that were created during a time when artists' lifestyles and livelihoods were interrupted and live performances were not possible. The livelihoods of those who were already struggling in some circumstances then got taken away and the rug got pulled out. And where did they land? This is the conversation that we can have, because we did those two first albums and stayed connected. So man, it's going to be good. I'm excited.
For those who are interested in walking through a course of tremendous value with the information that Laura J has gathered for us, this is a great opportunity to just dive into finding yourself better. I met Laura because she was posting motivational inspiration and sometimes silly videos about herself just journeying through life and trying to be an inspiration. And it caught me at a time when I was really going through some hard stuff. And we just connected. And when we connected, I learned so much from the perceptions and the things that she's read, and just sharing that information with me has changed my life dramatically. And so I hope that when you're able to hear some of these things, that you're able to internalize them. And when you internalize them, your music's going to change. It's taken me a while. I had a lot of music that was very from my place of pain, and it was process of healing that, I had to go through and look at the ugly things that happened in my life and evaluate them. And a lot of times I did that with music. I wasn't trying to condemn anybody else. I was just trying to process for myself. And some of it came off as very condemning towards an ambiguous somebody. But at the same time, like, just going through that and expressing those emotions and feeling that out helped me change and become a better person, and really has shifted a positive shift in my music. And I'm really excited to see what it can do for you too.
Jared Wade, Mad Hatter Music Inc. Thank you so much for helping people think twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5. Come on, join us here live. I said it at 33:33 of the video, which is so cool. So I am grateful that we can rhyme and riff and create some real change in our own lives and the lives of those who wish to have support, as we had set out to do at the beginning of the pandemic and still do. So we're doing it again 4 years after the pandemic began and identities got shifted. Now we're saying, hey, we've had enough of the reactive story. What about the creative one? So that is what this process is going to be. The documentary series that we'll be creating through the meetings that we have virtually and in person. All of those opportunities to go deep into the heart of matters, where we start to see that energy is what is at the heart of matter, because at the heart of matter there is nothing, which is no thing, which is the public thing, which brings us into the mixed war between the public and private that we have been in since the fall of Rome, that only reflected a changing contract. So with that, we'll say peace without the paperwork. Okay. All right. So thank you to each of you for joining in this evening, and to everyone who watches this back and isn't already subscribed to the Peaceful Inner Warriors United channel. Please make sure that you do get subscribed there, because I have not got any strikes or warnings there, which mean it is where I am looking to grow on YouTube. There's a Rumble account with Peaceful Inner Warriors United as the channel name too. So those are the two main go-tos. The events are always posted to Meetup under Peaceful Inner Warriors United, PIWU, and that is where you each would have gotten all of this information. Plus, I might have texted, I think I actually texted each of you privately because we're connected, and that's because we know one another. And that's what players on the field of consciousness do. We actually know one another, we tune into one another, we're connected at a deeper level than what we would be if we didn't know who was who. So, Elle, thank you for joining in as well. She's from the Hamilton area and is an absolute all-star. I met through a friend who I met at Soul Shine Festival too, where Bev, you are one of the co-owners of Soul's Path Retreats. And so it's an absolute pleasure to get to meet you through this avenue before we're at the venue where I would really like to have some documentary filming days. And so that was really the intention for this call, as an information sharing session. And I'll be honest, I'm doing the best I can to keep up, but the picture is so big, it's so wide, it's so far reaching that to package it in all of the details and minutia that need to be accounted for in order to pull it all together, I don't have it all together yet, but I'm doing the best that I can to go as fast as I can. And it literally made me laugh out loud because at 6:59 I have slides from Canva that I've just created, and I have slides that Nancy sent over for the 7:30 presentation for the Hub for Humankind, which is one of the events we'll be filming for or at. And at literally 1 minute two, as my computer is struggling to keep up because it's already full, and I'm trying to pull up Zoom and I start PowerPoint at the same time, I laughed at myself and the entrepreneurial time zone that I had in that moment of like, Laura, you have 1 minute and your computer's already struggling and you think you're actually going to be able to make a PowerPoint, start the meeting, greet people, and. So I don't know whether you can relate to that.
Can most definitely relate to that.
Yeah, and Sandra, you're starting a group in the St. Catharines area as
Yeah,
well.
so the Niagara region. Yeah.
You have 160 or 180 people already signed up.
We have 160 people already, and it's growing. Like we're getting people with interest every day, and people are very inclined because of the way we've structured our particular group. Are very inclined to share without. It's a very comfortable space for them to share, so we're getting the interest for sure. Yeah,
that's wonderful, and you are an amazing leader, and I appreciate your coming into meetings where you've added value since we've first met and you connected, and then we connected through calls, and it's a real pleasure to get to connect with you and get to know you better because you're a magical woman. I can see it and I feel it. And that's the piece that if we don't know one another, we don't actually care to the level that we do when we do. And that's what this whole project is designed to do, is to really help create a culture of care. So the cult you are part of, cult you are part of, is one of care and connection and community and contribution. So basically, Album24 is an aspect of this documentary that it reflects the 2 albums we've already done through the pandemic, with 22 songs on each of those from artists that some did both albums and others were new on each of them. So that was an opportunity where artists' lives had shut down and livelihoods too, and there was no touring, there was no music, there was no performing. The online space was being inundated, identities were being lost with 2020 and the transition we all got thrown into. And so basically, my friend Jared Wade, who I'd connected through because I was doing a whole bunch of Facebook Lives back then, he reached out and said, Laura, would you share your sacred sojourn of the soul concept with artists if I got them together and then you hosted the meeting? And it was just like, you mean you're going to invite people and I can just show up and present the information? Yes, please. And so we had the first meeting, and I was fear mongering in a different package unintentionally, because I was really conscious that I wanted them to know what was going on. It was very important to me that they wake up or be awoke, that they know the influence that their vibration has on the airwaves that they're contributing to. And it was very important to me that I share my belief systems with them about their influence and their impact and their situation. And why I say it this way is because Luna Keller is one of the cats on the call. I just say that because it rhymes and it was fun, but it's also because there's that whole element of the lion and the feline as the familiars and the ones who choose us. Nancy, awesome to have you here. Thank you for being here. Nancy is the co-owner of Soul's Path Retreat Center with Bev. So Nancy is the visionary behind Hub for Humankind, actually, which is what the meeting we're going to have in 15-ish minutes will be about, where we're going to have more contributors showing up to actually talk about the events themselves. This call was where I wanted to outline the documentary component and Album24, which are going to be elements to the Hub for Humankind event, May 17th to 19th at Soul's Path Retreats in Blackstock. And so we're going to have a camp. And I was saying about my entrepreneurial time zone before you got here, Nancy, because 1 minute to the top of this call, it was just like, oh, do you think I could actually create this PowerPoint that I haven't had a chance to do yet? And my computer's already struggling to keep up. And I've got to start this meeting and. So that was what I was saying before you got onto the call. Would anyone like to say something while I am looking for the slide that needs to come up? Okay, I'm guessing that
apparently not.
Right. Captain Obvious says, did you know actually der means obvious or stupid or apparent? So this whole gender is about the generation der. And it was funny because Lori Appleby and I were looking that up on a call that we did just while we were kind of researching together spontaneously on a call that we recorded so that we could post it so others could watch us research that which came to mind. So those are fun little group sessions. And while we're doing this, I pull it up because I remembered seeing something that brought my attention to it, and then the Gen Y, Z, X connections and how that then highlighted the Gen, and then what is der, and then looked up that, and then she said, oh, it's Captain Obvious because there was a captain beside the der. I didn't understand that, but she said Captain Obvious, and then it was like, oh, of course, Captain Obvious. So do you know how that the der got distracted? But it's relevant because it's one of the natural laws, and people are being misguided to believe that the law of gender does not actually factor in how the church has been brought into the government and statism, and how it's about mental states. And that's what needs to be broken down. It's about the identities that have entities in the wording of them. So when we start to unpack this and we do it together, we start to then see how the fear mongering in a different package, as I'd mentioned I was doing on this first call, where Luna Keller, who contributed the song Prophecy, that I will share because it is absolutely beautiful. But why it's so significant is because she beautifully helped reframe my sharing to help me see how I was fear-mongering without meaning to, by trying to sell my agenda unintentionally. And it was like, holy wow, I can grow in this room. So I said to Jared, when can we do this again? And he said, okay, well, anytime. What do you want to do? And I said, let's do it in 2 weeks again. So we scheduled another meeting for in 2 weeks, and these artists showed up again, and we were stretched and grown. And it's like, okay, well then I said to Jared afterwards, well, okay, how do we get them to keep showing up? We've got to give them a prize. There's got to be something in it for them to be able to get out of it in order to keep coming. And so then I said, well, how easy would it be for you to create an album? That is totally not my forte. I don't consider myself a musician. I'm just an empowerment coach that sometimes sings my messages. But like, I am not an artist or a musician specifically. That was not how I identified. And he said, oh yeah, I can work, no problem. I can look after that, and I can reach out to this one and this one. And so I said, okay, you deal with that element of it, and I'm going to deal with hosting the meetings, and I'll interview the artists. So I offered all of the artists that were contributing to interview them, to be able to introduce people to who these artists were, what they were doing, where they were from, what they were about, what the message was, all of these little basics that we don't know until we know. So I offered everyone that participated the opportunity to do these interviews, and some did and some didn't. And so now, 2.5, 3 years later, because July 22nd, 2021 was when we launched the first album, I have recordings of some of these artists that now have a 3-year later effect that we can bring into this experience, this documentary. Now we're tracking with the artists that grew. And so that's what Album24 is designed to do. It's to support the artists to be able to actually create lives they love living without losing their rights in the process. Which is a beautiful way to say that each of us are the artists of our own lives, creating a masterpiece. The masterpiece is to masterpiece inside of us. And to break down the word spells so that we dispel where we've been misguided. Because Ma only tricks if she thinks she's doing best for her pups, that she wants to do well in life. So Ma only tricks because she thought that was what was supposed to happen. It's called a pro-social lie. And that's what we've all been getting. I want to say gypped by, but I don't know the roots of that, and it feels very disrespectful to one cult. But then at the same time, I actually heard the word gypsy, which is why it comes in now. Gypsy actually being found, or forefathers and mothers. I do believe that was what I heard gypsy be referred to as, which is why I bring it in. And then it's like, you can't say that, Laura, that's politically incorrect. But this whole politically incorrectness is a way to get us to censor ourselves. And if you're familiar with Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, the Four Agreements: be impeccable with your word, don't make assumptions, don't take anything personally, and always do your best. And if we're doing those things and we're acting honorably, then we're able to be in community together and actually practice what is not only preached, but is walked and talked in community, where we can digest together, food together, and also the soul food that we are eating, and providing one another. So why it's so powerful that there are 6 figures that are figureheads on the screens for those who didn't make it to the meeting to reflect on and see we're here at this time in our shared story. What's significant is there are 6 boxes of value, 6 boxes of offerings, of gifts, of skills. Each of us have something of value to offer. We each hold our spot respectively. And it doesn't overshadow anyone else's. And no one's box has to be smaller in order to accommodate somebody else's bigger box. I can get really big in my box, but it doesn't mean it has to impact you in your box. Unless we're part of a community that will not acknowledge how the dysfunction in one box is distracting the boxes around the box, that's distracting others, causing chaos. Because the thing that I really want to bring to the table, and why when I got caught in my pattern of fear-mongering unintentionally, is the fact that our energy goes where our attention flows, and we knows that. Not with the tip of our nose that grows if we lie. We know it in our heart. We feel it. And when we're in our heart, that is where we actually start connecting again. Our heart fields radiate the same distance as we were supposed to stay away from one another when the cult of a death orientation took over. And we said, no, 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 I'm still going to hug my sisters and brothers, except for I couldn't, because I was so strong in my beliefs that I was offensive to one who believes otherwise. And I couldn't see the way that my BS was actually contributing to the divide. So I can only speak for myself, but what I know is that, as Claudio says in the calls, that Elle's been on every one, so thank you for showing up and contributing. But when we throw a pebble into the water, the ripples ultimately hit our ankles too. Always do. And they impact everyone else who's in our proximity too. And this is the thing that we need to consciously realize. We come together for events to have a really good time, to have fun, to love up on one another, maybe start love connections, whatever reasons we come together for events that feel really great. Personal growth industry always says it's never about the event, it's about the process leading up to the event, at the event, after the event. It's integration. Bev, you just got back from a retreat that you were on that you're integrating from now, not because you said that, but because I've been through my own experience of unfolding after the identity I had before I went to the event that changed everything stopped. And then the identity that would take over hadn't yet formulated itself fully. And so I was in that limbo of the liminal phase in between. And this is what I believe that so many people would have fallen into if we hadn't woke up first. And that's not to say that there's a superiority thing, or even that we need to be waking people up to anything. It's simply to say that if those ripples are going out and they're also coming back, if we don't recognize how our belief systems keep us in our heads, we will not be able to connect from the heart. So I've got my own healings to do with family particularly, and then other connections too that I'm doing my best to do. But I'm honest in that because I believe that's what the world needs more of. And I know that each of you who are in this gallery right now are authentic. You show up, you're real, you don't hide the truth when you feel something that's uncomfortable and others wouldn't be okay with. You still move it, and that's brave. And I think people need examples of that bravery, because I don't think there's enough of them in the world as of yet, except for we get to be the ones that created the opportunity for them to see it in action, which is why these events are so exciting to me. So April 20th and 21st, it's Earth Day. We're going to come together for the Tiny Homes and Sustainable Living Expo at Soul's Path. It's 10 to 5 each day for the actual expo. But what I would like to do is actually come together ahead of then and do a public social so people can come to connect, and vendors or expo participants can come in and then get to mingle and have a social element. And we have some themes, which means there's a training component to it. So somebody always benefits from the connections outside of the connections that they're naturally going to benefit from at the event itself. And then we can have additional opportunities while we're at the venue to be able to then do filming shots, to do interviews one-on-one, to do smaller group interviews, to actually have conflict resolution, mediation skills training by application. You know, Bev and Nancy are working to create a cooperative type community experience at their center at a more private, in a more private way that will be beneficial to the whole community, because then standards are set that involve a conflict resolution component to it, because that's what articles of association or incorporation require? Because then if we can deal with it ourselves, we don't need to call in a third party or middleman to resolve our drama, trauma, and conflict, because we can do it ourselves. We declare that we are adults, we are grown living souls that have a desire to care for one another in common unity of community. And we're setting the example by actually working through the hard stuff together, so that instead of getting to that point where it's just you blow away, we actually get closer then, because we can embrace after we've said, okay, no, I don't know. This is the behavior I'm identifying in this moment that is not acceptable to me. So what are we going to do about this situation? Instead of saying, you're these things. But skills training actually means that we have the tools to be able to neutrally summarize the behavior instead of putting it onto the person. So this is what we're creating with this documentary that's actually filming that. There's virtual opportunities where people get interviewed, like with the Album22 and Album22 Plus artists and the Album24 artists that are now coming together, except for these artists don't have to just be musical. This can be any form of artistry, including a life well lived. So that's the concept. And I am so excited to have us, who are the characters on the field of consciousness, to be showing up. And it starts small, but it turns out to be mighty, because we all know people who know people, which is why Lori Appleby shows up now, right? The Hub for Humankind participants and co-creators are going to be now starting to join the meeting, and I very much appreciate your hearing out my vision, and to also know that there's no way I can pull it off on my own. And without Nancy and Bev, the venue wouldn't be happening for huge parts of the scene, and the community that I have felt and the support that I have so appreciated from everyone that's in this gallery right now. It really helps me as well. And I just say that because I appreciate each of you so much. And I know the value of receiving energy and also giving energy, which is why I'm so grateful that we have these opportunities to come together to be able to actually co-create the new orderly world that we are creating together. We are bringing into fruition because we're visioning it together ahead of time. So vision casting is literally what I'm asking us to factor into the documentary Album24 as the way that we master peace within ourselves. And then the events are where we come together, and then we expand our venues as well. So then we have other places where our community can gather, and we get more communities because each of us are connected to different communities. And because we're not part of the community specifically, then it's not connected. But as we come together, then we can join those communities, because now there are connecting points, because we're the ones that weave the web of humanity or humankind together. So thank you so much for sharing in that. And I would love for anyone to share what came up from that experience. Christine, it's awesome to have you here. Chiron Academy, it's great to have you here again.
Melon,
thank you. Yes, Krishna Dev is not here yet. I think he might be running a couple minutes behind, I think he had said. And Lori, it's amazing to have you here as well. This is fantastic. Did anybody have anything to say about what we just went over with the documentary and Album24 before we kind of move into the Hub for Humankind focus?
Really well organized and explained, Laura.
Thank you. Yay. Well, it's definitely more to explain, but Sandra?
No, I always love listening to you, and it's fascinating. I love being in the space. I do have to unfortunately go to another meeting. I wanted to hop on though and just listen for a little bit. So wish you well in the next meeting, and love to connect soon. Thanks everybody, and thanks for sharing your space.
Yay. Thank you so much for making the effort, Sandra. That was awesome to have you here.
The Hub for Humankind originally was actually Hub for Humanity, and Laura, with her wordsmanship, really wondered whether we could have it be changed to humankind, to have the word kind in there. And it fits so appropriately because that's really the way that we have to move forward and work together. And it's definitely part of the core values. And just for anybody that wasn't here on our last call, the Hub for Humankind was created by asking the question, what does humanity need? And how does it survive these times? And knowing that there's many leaders, and COVID and what's happened has brought a lot of us together, a lot of us like-minded, that really put us together. And there's lots of groups and organizations, and there's still divide amongst the like-minded, and a lot of that is there's ego coming into play, and there's still healing and connection that can come to, and forgiveness to come into play. And so what really, along with that question with what does it need, one of the first instincts was detox, and some of that, along with the togetherness, and really went forward from that, looking at the 8 dimensions of wellness, or at your areas of life when you're reflecting on where your stress is in life, or where you might assess what's working or what's not working, if it's relationships, if it's work or purpose. And so the Hub for Humankind was formed with the question there, and the different areas of life, and how can we simply raise our vibration, and how can we share solutions, and how can we come together without our egos and co-create and facilitate, rather than needing to know who is the top or who is in charge. It's not meant to have any one person or any one organization. It really is simply meant to come together and share our gifts and share our wisdom, share healing, so we can all grow in the area of life that we could use that support and vibe raising activities to create those aha moments, and to ensure that we're always evolving to a place where we can thrive instead of survive, in an authentic, sustainable, community-oriented way that's sharing with the culture of care, and having that root behind us. And so the mission really is, how are we going to do that? And we really want to share it. We want to share it with people who have that same heart-centered, care-oriented, solution-oriented, community-oriented, all of those good things. And so we simply want to share it, and we want to squash the ego and just lead with love, and are welcoming anybody who wants to join us in with that. Krishna Deva, you joined us. I want to introduce you. So
Hi.
Krishna Deva is on the initial organizing committee, and he's really good at leading from that conscious way with the conscious conversations and the well, you share more about yourself, Krishna Deva, and how
Sure.
you see yourself involved with this.
I see this as something unique in that it's giving us even more of an opportunity to practice working together. What is it that is common with us? We've got a few themes here, but at any step of the process, it's important for there to be feedback from each person who has wisdom they've developed over the many years they've been around. And we don't have all the answers. And it's a process through an event like this that we can learn to find the value in each of the people who participate and their wisdom, and to draw that out and see how we all align with the ideals we've been talking about, and create a beautiful way to work together, not just for this project, but for other upcoming projects that we engage in, or that maybe you engage in and we work with you. That's what gets me excited.
We are open. This is just the start. And as we grow and we come together as co-creators, we can adjust, we can add to, and really work together to form what feels right. But the idea of it originally was that we would have a summit and kick off the summer with a summit and have the different themes or categories where leaders would join in and have their camps, and they would provide facilitation activities, entertainment, different sessions that would share their knowledge, their healing, whatever it is that they're contributing. What passion do they have that they can share out? So looking at the themes with the spiritual, the love, healing, raising vibration, the emotional with the peace, community, connection, teamwork, the physical, health, movement, nutrition, nourishment, detox from chemicals, technology, EMFs, relationships, personal freedom, sovereignty, truth, authenticity, intellectual learning, conscious conversations, expression, occupational with trade, business, purpose, fulfillment, environmental or what surrounds you with survival, sustainability, preparedness, recreational. Bev always reminds me that how do we make this fun? How do we incorporate play? And that is really important. And I'm often too serious. So
yes, life is not meant to be this serious.
And that, like, the fun will be incorporated with all of those different categories. But essentially what we're looking for is leaders. If you have a passion or a purpose that you really feel fulfilled to share, then would you like to lead a camp and have the themed camp and co-lead? Really, we're looking for multiple people that can be part of providing activities and facilitation with all of these different topics in any way that is simply raising the vibration and giving knowledge and empowerment that someone can grow and evolve in an area that they could use support or just simply have that interest to that they want to put in.
I just wanted to share, for example, we had a call right before this where I was sharing the documentary and Album24 opportunities that are going to be part of the fun and recreation, entertainment, uplifting play. So the recreational element, that those projects can be connected to the recreational camp. But then we're also actually going to be using the Peaceful Inner Warriors United banner to be part of the personal camp. So freedom, sovereignty, truth, authenticity. So just as an example, that and then Krishna Deva has the fringe stage that he's done at Soulshine Festival previously that we were talking about also potentially being part of that freedom, truth, expression, authenticity, sovereignty camp. So just as an example, and with all of this, the intention for our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks, but it'll be on a Thursday instead, on April 4th at 7:30 again. In that meeting, we're actually going to be talking about each of us, our skill sets, and then which camps those skills can go together and how we can collaboratively create a camp that has multiple different offerings with different practitioners that haven't necessarily worked together before yet. So all of the theories that so much energy has been going into on my part, for instance, this is the opportunity to actually apply the theories in a real life situation with rules and frameworks in place to support us in that organic unfoldment of a co-creative experience that also has a structure that gives the experience of certainty with an element of variety that honors our primal needs as creative beings.
So that's the next step, as Laura said, with April 4th, we will be actually bringing together the different co-creators, artists, facilitators, and actually jumping to the planning of the summit specifically. And these are just some very quick examples on here of what can be in those areas. But once these committees are formed and we work on the scheduling for each different camp, then we can do a master schedule and start getting that promotion out there for the summit. And people can pick and choose and make their own schedule for the summit for what they're interested in, what they want to learn more about, ways that they want to grow and connect and all of that.
I just wanted to say we are setting a deadline for applications for this process for the end of this month in order to actually be able to create that sense of certainty from knowing what to expect, and also realizing that artistry needs to be contained, but you can't contain artists. So figuring out how to actually work within that framework is a really vital component to this process. And so when Nancy talks about the schedule, I think it's really important to say we get to choose this, and there's going to be a general template and framework to be able to work within. But there's so much learning that takes place in the creative process of actually creating a schedule and creating that sense of certainty in an uncertain experience, that I just wanted to bring that perspective in, along with the deadline to be able to say you definitely want to be involved in this experience, because we need to be talking to vendors and also bringing in the element of food and nourishment and who's going to provide that based on numbers as well. So, you know, figuring out who's going to be involved in the ground committee first level, and then those people that find out a little after, and that's kind of the wave effect of a grassroots movement like what this is.
Yeah, and it's really important that everybody feels like they're able to contribute in a way that's authentic to them and that they can add their flair. And so long as it's helpful and not harmful, really, like that's the rule of thumb. If it's something that is helpful and regenerative and solution oriented, and then yeah, bring it. Let's get it out there and let's come together. People can. It's not about controlling what is happening. We can set the framework and the guideline, and then gather the leaders, facilitators, artists, and make it happen.
Yeah, and the sooner somebody steps up to that, the better.